Alright, so I've now made the upgrade specific tutorials that I said I would make in the last video. Basically these kick in when you finish a run with a new upgrade and they explain to the player how to use it, which is important. So I'll show footage of that now. Okay, so that is two of the upgrade tutorials that teach the player how to use a new upgrade when they get them. There's a third one that I've made that I haven't showed here simply because I don't want to reveal everything in these videos. The main thing is that there's some plot stuff in the third one. It's not like a cutscene or anything, but it's sort of I'll say abstract storytelling where you see certain things in the level that are hopefully a bit spooky and imply certain things about the upgrades that you're getting and where they're coming from, and hopefully create a sense of suspense that compels the player onwards. So yeah, I think those work, but if anything stood out to you watching it, let me know. Feel free to write in the comments. The next thing I want to work on before I get it to like a distributable demo is another planet. So at the moment there are kind of these three areas with different graphics and music that I've made. There's the abandoned ship that you start on, that I showed in the last video. There's the first planet, which I've showed a couple of times now, and then, or parts of it. And then there's also these upgrade tutorial areas. The issue that exists with the game is that once you've kind of completed a few of those areas, you just have to go back to that first planet and try and get as many upgrades as you can. And what most people are going to do, most likely, is repeatedly die because you get compelled to go further. I mean, even I do when I'm playing it, and I know what's around the corner or what's in the next room, but you want to disregard the time limit because you want to see how far you can get. And then any upgrades that you've collected on that run don't count for anything because you die and you have to recollect them. So what it kind of does is it rewards this conservative gameplay where you're just going out, getting one upgrade and coming back. And that isn't really the game at its finest. It means that the challenges associated with the time limit and the sense of rushing and having to plan your route no longer come into play. And it also means that you repeat the same thing more because you'll collect the items in a close radius initially, and then to get the ones that are further out, radius from the starting point where you land your ship, I mean. To get the ones further out, you have to pass through those areas again, obviously. So, like, backtracking is a common thing in Metroidvanias, but this has a lot of it, because in a single run, you're already backtracking, because you always need to end up back where you started. You don't always go back the same way, because I've designed the levels with lots of loops and the occasional one-way section, but not usually a one-way section, because the loops are apparent just on the map, so I don't have to force the player to do them. But yeah, it is a bit of an issue, the kind of repetition that ensues, and I think most players would end up lapsing into that. To offset it, I've made it so that if you die, yes, you lose the upgrades that you've collected, but you keep the coins you've collected, and those can be used to buy upgrades as well. So there's a set number of ones you can buy, but there's a shop where you primarily get the maps and compasses, but you can also buy like a couple of missile upgrades. The plot device for that doesn't make heaps of sense, except that the coins are physical manifestations of like quantum data or some kind of bullshit that means that if you die, they still come back with you. And the only reason that they appear, that they manifest with coins, is because you're observing them. It's kind of pretty silly, but yeah, I mean, I want it to be a gameplay mechanic. I want there to be some ground gained for a failed run. So that helps a little bit with the repetition, because you still have this sense of progress even when you die. The other thing that helps is I've got a teleporter on the first planet that you can activate, and once you've activated it, it stays active, and it means that you can cut to a deeper part of the planet. You can only use it one way on a single run at the moment. You can go down or you can go back. That's just because if you can use it both ways, it essentially creates a second set of crossroads, like another starting point, really. And I want that to be on another planet rather than on like a single planet. And I could have made the game like that, so that you just keep unlocking deeper and deeper teleporters, but I didn't want to do that for numerous reasons. So that helps as well with the repetition. The other thing that I think will help a lot is just having another place you can go. So having another point you can start at. So I'm going to have it so that once you complete that initial kind of abandoned ship area, there are 2 planets you can land on. And it just means that if you get a little bit frustrated with one, rather than deciding to stop playing, you might decide to try the other planet. And hopefully by the time you're kind of well on top of both of those, you're ready to go to the 3rd planet. You've unlocked it. But I do think that there needs to be a couple of options at the very start of the game, just to create a bit more of a hook for the player. Give them a little bit more freedom of choice. Possibly with this kind of game, that can create sequence breaks, meaning that you can end up in areas that you're not meant to end up in yet, given the kind of upgrades that you have. But it won't actually matter, because all the upgrades are stackable. So even the dash upgrade that lets you move through walls, the first one you get gives you that ability. The second one reduces the cooldown on being able to dash again. So yeah, it doesn't matter which planet you choose to land on initially, you'll still likely find a dash upgrade that will then give you that ability and open up more and more areas. I just think it'll make the game much more inviting, having a couple of options at the start. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. It'll take me a while before I make the next video because I want to showcase that in the next video. I only really bother making these when I have video footage to show, because that's the interesting part. The rest is just me rambling to create a sense of trajectory in what I work on. So I'm going to do that, make parts of the second planet at least enough to show in a video, and then there are other things that need changing. Like at the moment, the game can only be played with a controller. Initially, it could only be played with mouse and keyboard, and then it could be played with controller and mouse and keyboard, either option. And now it only works with a controller, and it's just because I realized the controller's more fun, and I got a bit carried away making new objects and areas and interfaces with the controller, and forgot to make sure that they still worked with the mouse and keyboard, so some of them don't. So it'll be a slightly fiddly and annoying process fixing that up, because I just got excited about what I was doing and I wasn't thinking about the annoying future work I was making for myself. So yeah,